What?
It's good, bro.
Just trying to be like you, man. You know what I mean?
Nah, you don't want to do that, sir. You already great yourself. You be like me, taking yourself down a peg or two.
Yo, you know what? You're right though. There's an African proverb that says, "Never set sail on another man's star." You're right. I'm gonna try to be my best me. You know what I mean?
That's a fact, man. That's a fact. What's that? Some quinoa and oat milk.
We got a little organic ramen popping off.
Oh, okay. That's way better than oat milk and quinoa though. Quinoa cereal. I know if anybody's gonna eat quinoa cereal, it'll probably be you.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. I
Yeah,
like the idea.
that's a good idea for you, not for everybody.
Yeah, quinoa. I only really got hip to it in the last couple of years, man. That joint, that's good money.
No, that's definitely good for certain meals, but it ain't good for everything.
Yeah, it don't got that. It ain't
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's not good for everything.
Yeah. Oh man, what's new?
What's new? I got a hold on. I got something to start off the convo with today. I don't know if you heard. Let me just read it verbatim. Uh, Texas GOP passes bill to stop teachers talking about racism. The legislation also states that teachers don't have to take professional training like cultural proficiency and equity training if it makes them feel any discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress because of their race or gender. The idea is to whitewash American history of any legacy of racism and white supremacy. So that, I mean, I was just talking about somebody had made their point on the actual ruling or actual bill, but it's ill to me because we talked about the Trump 1776 commission, which was basically early in the year was Trump's committee to pretty much rewrite history in regards to like just to erase a lot of the stuff that America was into, and just to show you the beautiful part of America. And that was actually, so this to me is not a surprise, right? Like, because I mean anyway, we all know this now, but I'm saying, like, as of just last 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago, the 1776 got disbanded, and that was basically what this new bill is that it's like, yo,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
don't have, you guys don't have to talk about it, and
yeah,
if it makes you feel, it also fits into what we talked about last week in regards to parents being able to pull their kids, being like, I don't want my kids to feel guilty or
yeah.
whatever the case may be. So on one end, I do see how it can be an empowering the parents, but it, like, this just lets me. I mean, we already are in the know, but this just is like, wow, like it's just ill how it's just. I'm never surprised, but it's just ill how the system always.
Wait, hold up. I'm glad you. So I got one for you.
All right.
Where did it go? Um, oh, it's so good. Hold on. So good. Hold up. No, that ain't it. Okay. All right. So, and mind you, this is from one of my financial newsletter joints. They're just telling you what's coming up in the news, yada yada yada. So coming up this week, anniversary of George Floyd's death. Tuesday marks the 1 year anniversary of George Floyd's murder, which led to months of protests for racial justice across the U.S. So remember, this time last year, everyone was woo ha ha, we're all together, like let's take it to the streets. This can't go on. That people have forgotten completely about that moment, right? But this is the 1 year anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, Months of protests for racial justice across USA. Since then, American companies have pledged to spend 50 billion on racial equity initiatives. Today, only 250 million has so far been spent or committed to specific initiatives, according to Creative Investment Research. Stay tuned for more coverage on whether companies have lived up to their pledges. They pledged 50 billion
Mm-hmm.
in the emotions of the moment. So far, 250 million have been spent.
And that's great. That's great marketing and great strategic planning from the powers that be, right? You throw a large number out there, you get people caught up in the butter, and then ultimately people don't follow up on their own stuff, let alone trying to track their own numbers. People don't do the accounting for their own finances. So you put a number big enough and grandiose enough, people are gonna lose track. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yo, we don't who's gonna do the checks and debits on this? Like, let's say a big ass number that's ginormous that most people are going to one be scared about, like, yo, how do I, little old me, how do I track to see how that spending goes? And then two, the business is like, yeah, we're good to go by, by September, we'll be able to reroute this right back to the police department. Bang, we back in business.
Yeah,
50 mil, yo.
They went from 50 billion to 250 million, which is a quarter billion. They went from 50 billion to 0.25.
That is crazy.
That's like, I owe you $50, but I'm gonna give you a quarter. We just, a quarter at a time till we catch up. We gotta catch up.
It's brazy, but it's brilliant.
Well, I don't think it's too brilliant. I think it's just what you
If
do.
you don't want to pay your tab, is brilliant.
I think truth comes to light, bro. I'm getting this from a financial newsletter. These ain't the people that's really even clocking this type of information. You know what I'm saying?
But like, and so the newsletter in itself, like, that also speaks to a privileged amount of people who are even tapped in and can even
Of course
have the wherewithal to even read this and get from it. But for the most people, yeah, if a few financial or fiscal people of color, or just people who wouldn't know, start to shout out about it, it may get some traction, it may not. And so, like, if I was corporate America, I would hedge my bet on, well, let's see what happens. Let's throw the 50, the 50 billion number out, and appease the moment, and let's see what happens later on. Like, yo, we met. I popped your inner tube tire, and it took all summer for you to get the bread, because I was like, yo, if he don't see me and I don't have the bread on me, then he doesn't have. It's like, yo, let's go with the bread, Bugs. I don't have it on me next time. I'll tell you next time to the end of the summer, and then I'm up out of there. But because I was dealing with you, you pulled up to the crib. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, most people are not pulling up to the crib. And so if I had to hedge my bet, if I would have popped anybody else's inner tube that year, I wouldn't have came out of pocket.
Listen, I agree with you. I feel you. I 90% agree with you. What I'm saying is, it's not a good time to be putting people's back to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this number is hard to digest. It doesn't really tell you, like, even if you just made this a digestible clip,
mm-hmm.
You're like entertaining. That's what you got to gamify everything now. So if you made that like a kind of meme worthy thing to share on TikTok or IG or whatever, it might pick up some track, but yeah, it wouldn't get the people.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, at this particular moment in time, you gotta be careful how you treating people.
No, like, absolutely.
I think people are ready to everything that's shaking out now, everybody getting caught up with the PPP and just everybody, mm-hmm. It's like everything you did is coming to light, bro. Mm-hmm. It's coming to light. Like, everybody who thought they was finessing or whatever, it's coming to light, including the most heinous acts from the top. So, like, there's a lot of institutions. They're gonna have a real reckoning coming up. Like, trust me, I know how it seems, right? This is how it seems. It seems there should have been a reckoning. it seems like people should have been on it. You know, Floyd was a great opportunity to create some real equity for the right people, there was all this like, and so it feels a little bit like same old, right? But I think what's actually happening is that foundation. If you remember, I said if you've ever watched something that's fighting for its life, or it's about to die, and it's like it's on its last few whatever, it doesn't just like twirl out and fall like a movie. You know what I'm saying? It fights tooth and nail for mad long until it has literally no fight left, and then a little bit more, and then it dies.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is one of the first fatal blows to our current system of capitalism. That's what I think. So I think all the volatility in the crypto market is like, most people are like, oh yeah, crypto's dead. I'm like, something's dead, but it's probably not. We'll see. Yeah, something dying. What's good, D?
Yo.
What up?
What's up?
Yo, they got a teaching gig out here that opened up at the charter school. I don't know if you know folks that are interested, but it's kind of time sensitive. So,
man, I would take it though. Anything housing though, if they heard this, it's tough, man.
Oh, forget about it. Never mind. No, I'm just kidding. You can figure something out, bro. Like, you let people know you're a teacher out here. You trying to, bring diversity. Lord knows we need it.
Yeah, that'll actually be fire. Even if it's something you don't necessarily want to know, you want to do right now. You know what I'm saying? I think it'd be a good idea to send your resume through, just to have the conversation. You know, if you decide like not to go through it and vet it personally, you know what I'm saying? See what it looks like.
That's good. I want to say too, man. What's the website? I mean, I Google the website.
Just send me your resume, bro.
I got you.
Email it to me, and then we'll just send it direct to the source. You heard?
All right, yo, appreciate it.
When you sick and tired of having to send your resumes to other resume builders to get to the source, gonna connect them. You heard? You you're gonna connect this. So when you tired of your chief operation officer dancing in the videos, all in the videos, all in your nonprofit budget, gonna connect us, baby.
Yeah, hey, you had quite a weekend there, sir.
Who, me?
What a day, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, nah, we're gonna. Yeah, D had a crazy day. I want to hear about D's day, but
go ahead. Yeah, you go first, though, man.
No. I mean, my stuff was just family stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I'm saying in terms of bag plays, you had quite a weekend.
Oh yeah, I mean, but these weekends are probably gonna start coming more and more constant because we've done the work. That's why when you said it, I was thinking about, I was thinking about Kia, because I'm like, yo,
congrats, though, man. That's great.
It's about time. But yeah, we had a good weekend. I think that the Friday was good. You know what I'm saying? Zanaa was making fun of me for crying.
She cried too.
When she told her mother the story, she put the ultra butter on it. You know what I'm saying? She made me, she broke down on one knee. I said, yo, cut it out. I said, first of all, you ain't even see no tears drop off my face. I said I had a little asthma attack. I said, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had the shades on and the mask. I said, so you ain't technically see no tears. I said, but ultimately, I said, yeah, that's right. Your father got emotional.
For people who don't know, give them some context.
Elaine Weintraub, who's a mentor and a important part of my educational excellence, was who was also one of the co-founders of the African American Heritage Trail. She asked me to be a part of the presentation for the new one of the new spots on the trail, which is dedicated for slaves who got their name taken away you know, on an island, but not just on an island, but just historically, like as African American, as we don't have our name, you know, so you know that's why X hit it with the X because he was like, I don't want to, you know, the name that I'm using, Malcolm Little was given to me by, you know what I'm saying, slave owners. So that was the we was honoring a piece, and you know, Elaine allowed me to say a couple words, and you know, in talking about, you know, and talking to the students about, you know, their power and ultimately, you know, the power that they have in regards to, you know, changing what the education system looks like. I thought about, I mean, I was on an island. I was talking about Elaine. I started thinking about my mother because Elaine, in a lot of ways, it has a lot of qualities of my mom in regard to just, you know, keeping people safe, wanting to protect people, wanting to empower people. And so as I thought about my mom, as I thought about Elaine, and then I thought about my mom, and then I got a little choked up. And then you know, dirt pulled up, you know what I'm saying? I pushed through. But it's the first time I really spoke, you know, in regards to like people outside of my network about anything. It's the first time I've been back to the vineyard since my mother passed away. So that was one thing. So all of it kind of hit me in a rush. But I always think about like the young men who are able to see those moments, even though it was uncomfortable for me. You know, for them to see, you know, you could still be strong, and it's strong to be able to let your guard down and to be emotional and to be vulnerable at times. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not necessarily a weak thing. So I think outside of what I said, I think, you know, me having that moment connected with some of the kids, you know, because you know they probably see me from on the eye level, and they probably think, you know, not only do I not cry, but like I give it up, like my whole thing is different, and so, you know, I think that we probably empowered some kids just with me having that moment more so than whatever I said. So it was a dope experience, and the teachers were there, so you know. And it also was good for the educators because I don't know how many educators who are there can actually been shown that level of vulnerability, you know, because it's scary to do so because you don't know what the kids are going to say, how they're going to look at you. But ultimately, it just builds bonds because kids know that, you know, wow, like I've had that space and I'm a kid and this adult is in the same space, and so I think that it provides, you know, connection. So it was a good moment. It was uncomfortable, but it was a good moment, and I think that it's going to allow us to build off of not only for the students but for the educators in this space as well. So that was what happened in a nutshell.
Yeah, it was powerful, and it had like the plaque was to honor the nameless ancestors, those without a name. So it was wonderful to experience.
So what's the history of the island, man? So they were Native Americans, right? But there were slaves on the island as well. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there was Martha's Vineyard has a rich history of white folks will tell you it's mariners. So you see, whaling captains, seafaring people. But it goes back many millennia. The Wampanoag Native Americans were there over 10,000 years ago when the island was still connected to the mainland, hunting deer and whatnot. So their history is super rich. And then, yeah, there was, I mean, obviously slavery was still alive and well. So there was slavery on Martha's Vineyard, and they did their part. You know, some people say it was a part of the Underground Railroad. There is historical evidence of that. But as with most of Black history, it depends on who you ask, you know.
And that brings us back to equity. And we were just talking about ND. We were just talking about out of the 50 billion that was said to be put towards equity work in regards to, you know, this change that we want to see. I think you said 250 million to this point right now has been given.
Yeah, let me so what happened was
good night.
I got a email from one of my financial like newsletter joints. I think it was actually like Robin Hood and nothing too serious. Maybe it was a Minority Report. I like them, but Minority Mindset. But anyways, it said it's the 1 year anniversary for George Floyd and the protest, the month-long protest that took America over during the pandemic. 1 year anniversary for that. I think Tuesday, and then tomorrow, and then also that spurred $50 billion pledged capital to BIPOC organizations, initiatives, directives. 50 billion, and it said up to today, only 250 million has actually been spent, according to a Creative Investment Institute study. So I made it real simple. I said that's like me owing you $50 and giving you a quarter.
Like, yeah, I mean, you know, I hope y'all can hear me.
Yep.
I'm outside, so gotta walk the little one so he can go to sleep. So anytime, I think it's really important to name, right, that anytime, you know, funding is carved out for Black people specifically, I'll get into that other part in a second, but anytime funding is carved out for Black people specifically, you know, people swoop in and come and take it, you know, under the auspices of different things that really, you know, it's kind of easy to say that you're serving Black people when you're not a Black person and get money for it, right? So I think even out of that 250 million, even out of that quarter, I would be curious to see where did it go, because I'm looking at companies still be performative. I'm looking at companies still talk about, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and not hiring the people that are really well versed to do it and paying them appropriately. So there's money out there, and the challenge has always been, you know, how can we actually get the money for the things that we know that we're actually doing? Like, I see so many people so often get money or get praise or get shouted out for doing nothing, you know, for me. And this is why, you know, the movement Salute the Doers is so, it resonates with me personally, because, you know, me and Ian been rocking for a long time off of nothing, like just off of the strength that we know what we want to do for the kids. We know it's live, we know it's lit, and we're gonna do it whether people pull up or not, you know what I mean? So I think that's par for the course. I'm not surprised. You know, I did the extra work. So, you know, I got the PhD already, but there was a free course from the University of South Florida for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to be certified to do it. And, you know, it was free. So I was like, you know, I'll take it. And I decided to do that because I don't want, you know, it's not that I don't want, but for me, it's like I walk with credentials behind my name for a specific reason, because I know who's going to be checking for that before they try to cut me the check. You know what I mean? And I got to make sure I get the bag, and I got to make sure that before you even see my face, you know why you giving me that bag, right? And so that was like a strategic move to do, to get one step closer, really to get 5 steps closer, right? To getting this money that's earmarked for these purposes. You know, also, I'm gonna say, when we talk about this whole BIPOC thing, I'm not a fan of the term, to be honest, because everybody always seems to ride the coattails of Black people's oppression. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I taught history, I taught American history, I taught AP US history. So, you know, a lot of what people say about affirmative action, a lot of what people say about all of these other initiatives that are, again, targeted because we are always excluded, they benefit everybody else. But when things go down and when things go left, we always left to be in the fray, mostly by ourselves, right? Like fighting for our own, fighting for our kids. And people is forgetting that, when we fight for us and we fight for our people, a lot of people eat off of that. You know what I mean? So the whole, you know, I think get into the bread is like a strategy, and it's like playing chess, how to get there and really kind of just like unlock those keys as a collective, because of the fact that different keys turn different locks, and all of those locks are on the door to get to the money, you know what I mean? And to get to more of a chunk of that quarter, so to speak. And so, yeah, like,
So, hey, let me ask you a
like
question.
yeah.
Excuse me, doctor. Can you tell me how you feel about the article? Because me and James just read the article that you sent me about the bill that just got passed. What's your thought on that bill?
It's nothing new. Like, it's nothing, like, you gotta, like, for me, you know what I'm saying? Like, look, I think being a dope history teacher at that, like, I didn't just teach history, like, I was like teaching wokeness before wokeness was a term. Like, I was hooking the kids up, like teaching them about Reconstruction. Like, most people don't even know what Reconstruction is. They don't even know the time period after the Civil War existed. They don't know that it was during that time where we had way more African Americans, congressmen in the House and in the Senate. It was after 1865, right? A lot of people just don't know stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And so when you know the truth and you know how things function in the place that you operate in, it's very hard to be surprised. It's very hard to be surprised, and the reality is people don't want the truth to get out, because an educated populace is a problem. The more people know, the more questions you're going to get, right? You didn't see that dude that tried to hijack the bus until the kids started asking mad questions. He was like, nah, forget it. Like, he had to rethink his whole life off of the questions the kids is asking. So imagine what happens when people realize that, like, America really is the ghetto, like, that kids are starving every single day. Like, millions of kids do not eat in a country where people throw food out consistently. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that article is not a surprise to me. Things are getting very much more extreme in terms of quote unquote democracy. It's actually kind of scary. When you realize that these are the people that are in charge. They've been sitting in office for over a decade plus, controlling money, controlling who has access to what. The 1% is very upset, and I don't understand what they're upset about when you chilling. Like, what does it matter what's in the textbook? But no, it's like this idea of lying to people to keep them ignorant, to keep them doing what they want, is part and parcel of how this country was founded. Okay, the founding fathers knew, right, that they was like, all right, let's set this whole shit up so that only a few people could really have a say. So in the beginning, back when the country was established, everybody couldn't vote. Even amongst the white people, everybody couldn't vote. So it's not anything new. And you have to understand what happened before to understand what's happening now, and to know how to arm yourself to move forward, And so I'm not surprised by that. To be honest, it's part and parcel of what the conservative and what the Republicans tend to do. They could pass laws about that, but they can't pass laws to increase minimum wage. I mean, come on, like, y'all have all this time to be worrying about what people is learning in school, but your kids don't go to these schools, like, so it's very hypocritical, but it's
not
standard.
Even what kids are learning, what you want kids not to learn. So to me,
Right.
it's very telling, because now, and I think this has happened more so under the Trump presidency, which I think is the blessing and the curse, is that the government has stopped operating behind the veil of secrecy. They're like, yo, it's over now. Trump put us on Front Street, so we don't got to front no more. It is what it is. And so now that it's like, yo, we don't got to hide it. You know what I'm saying? And like, there ain't no such thing as a broke system. Anybody that's aware knows it now. So, yo, bro, let's just do it live and direct. You know what I'm saying, on Front Street. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of a blessing for those who are awake to what's going on. And specifically, I think about next year, as we look at school and we talk about equity and where this money is going, I wonder how they're going to prepare their teachers to be back in the classroom with kids who have had this massive amount of freedom and flexibility. Like, you basically have to retrain teachers, because you ain't gonna retrain the kids.
Listen, the teachers wasn't trained properly to begin with.
Absolutely.
Like, this is about to be a mess. It's going to be a whole mess.
Now it's a mess.
It's gonna be crazy. I mean, look, the reality is the system it's not working. Instead of investing in the ways that people have proven it could work better. The status quo, and I'm not, you know what, and I'm gonna say something that you know, I know y'all know this, but it's not even a party thing, right? Because you elect people that you think gonna do what you ask them to do, and then they get there and they don't do shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't, you know, Democrat, Republican, it's like y'all all kind of is hiding behind the fact that y'all get bread from your position. The position is what gives these people the authority to wield control over our lives.
And she froze.
Oh
and
man, shoot that
It was
game.
good. That was good.
That's the system right there. I don't know. I think the system done caught our feed and try to silence a black woman.
All right.
Okay,
Yes.
you back? The system
back.
tried to silence you. The system tried to silence you, doctor.
No.
That's Agent. That's
that
Agent
is-
Smith. That's Agent Smith in here.
Word.
Damn, they put the clamps on that one. They said
This is too much.
silence that voice.
Go on.
It was getting too spicy. They said we already gave her the right to vote. How dare her?
Yo, they outside the crib right now. Run, Dr. M, run.
Yeah, word. They trying to give you the Dr. Sebi treatment.
Yeah.
Get up out of there, yo.
Yo, YB, are you in the streets? Can you make a quick recon mission? We gotta save Dr. M.
Word, yo. She got the jogger stroller too, but she got the baby out there.
Oh, she got that baby. Oh, that's a dub.
So D, what? You say your day was crazy. What was going on? You say to break up 3 fights?
I mean, I guess end of the year stuff, man. Cause I'm done in 2 days, man. So like a lot of kids, I guess like any other school I worked in, like instead of like solving the problem, the issue, they ready to fight, man. You say something about their mother, they ready to fight, man. So that was all day today. Like 3 fights.
Yeah, it was a lot of weird energy today.
Yeah, it was tough, man.
Yeah. Damn. So you had to break up 3 fights? That's not
3 fights, yep.
That's not normal, D.
I don't know if you say something about my mother, I probably have to fight too, and I'm an adult. So
but it always starts out
I'm
joking.
just saying.
They joke around, and then once it gets to that point, man, it's like, yeah.
It gets serious, right?
Where's your school at, D?
Huh?
Where's your school at?
I'm in Georgia now. I just moved down here. I got down here in February.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what's good, yo, Kenny? What's good? What's your you know what I mean? What's going on your side?
I'm in the gym. I just finished in the gym. About to leave right now. Waiting for my man Rel to get dressed, and I'm out.
So what you think about what you doing? What you thinking about this summer? Like, you know, what do you think are some important things that you know that's gonna help save or salvage, you know, some of these lives that potentially could get lost just due to it just being summertime in the city? Like, let alone all the other things, it's just hot.
They got like all these schools is doing their own little programs, right? So I think that's good. It's a place for them to be. I just hope that in some schools they make it fun and not so much like school, but make it a place that they could just be, and they're still learning, but like don't make it so formal. You know what I'm saying? Like my school's doing. I know SOF is doing that, so I think that's a good thing. As far as people, other like not kids, like adults, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy for some kids too, because they're probably not gonna even want to go to those programs, and they're probably just gonna want to hang out. And so,
yeah, because de Blasio just put out the newsletter that remote is not an option next year. Everything will be back. Everybody will be back in the building.
Yeah.
You think that the system is ready for that?
Gotcha. Well, I mean, it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be ready, but they're gonna do it, and we're gonna have to figure it out.
When you say we, you about to go? You about to have a baguette or something? You about to go to? You about to have some French fries? You say we? Who you talking about when you say we? You talking about us on the front line, or you talking about the people
talking about everybody,
desk?
the whole community of people, teachers, parents, kids. They're gonna have to figure that out. Like there's no like other options.
So if you was a principal and you were preparing for the 2021-2022 school year, what things you think you would need to focus on your summer institute in regards to getting your staff prepared for some of the things they're going to encounter with people kids getting back in the building? What are some things you think, some important things, maybe one or two things you think are important things to focus on?
Just getting the kids reacquainted with just being in the school building and being with each other and socializing. I think just them being around each other, I think that's most important to getting things back to normal. As far as educational wise, I don't know. It's gonna be a mess. Like, I don't know if they're gonna make things like summer school or they're gonna make it more like a camp. I don't know. But I think just getting the kids to socialize and get used to being in the building again. Because, some kids are going to be a little paranoid, or some parents too, I should say.
So you think it's fair that they making kids, they're not giving an option for remote? And in some instances, if you have a parent and understand how things work, you don't have to opt in to sending your kids back to a DOE school. You can look for other resources.
I don't think it was ever fair. I don't think it was ever fair for all kids to go back to school because, for instance, there'd be kids that don't have clean clothes and can't go to school, and they rather be home because it's like I don't gotta get made fun of for what I got on.
Mm-hmm. But that's like so for those kids, we just get uniforms. There's gonna be a uniform mandate for public schools. That solves that. There you go. What's the next issue? If you don't got no gear, we'll give you gear. Everybody's in a formalized, standardized situation. It makes it easier for kids to get back in. You agree or you disagree? Oh, he's in the elevator. It's a dub. Does anybody? Do you agree with that, Donnell or Ann?
I think, well, like I said, it's so many things that didn't work that still don't damn work. It's like you have a wound, right? And instead of putting, well, I'll tell you a quick story. So I was walking down 125th years ago, and I had my headphones in, and I couldn't hear. And literally, I looked up, and this dude across the street was like waving me down, was like, yo. And I was like, what is he doing that for? And I turned, and there's a homeless dude sitting on a bench with blood like spewing out from like a scab on his like shin, like mad. I was about to walk right into the shit. Like, so super disgusting. Point is, education is just like that. The people that are in charge have the headphones on, right? There's blood spewing out of the wound that is all the things that people refuse to fix. And they just they just go around it. And then they act like there's other issues. So the one big thing that was being spoken about with the pandemic is learning loss. I was cracking up. I said, but who was learning? But who was really learning before the pandemic? Like, y'all act like everybody was actually learning when all y'all did was teach to a test. So now we can't have the test and everybody's talking about, oh, the kids ain't learning nothing, right? So now they found a way to bring back the test during the pandemic, right? So a lot of people took the standardized test over the past couple of months. Then you have a lot of kids were getting bullied in school, right? And because of remote learning, a lot of students felt a lot safer. Like, a lot of students was like, nah, like, I'm doing a whole lot better. Because think about it. In a classroom, again, where the teachers don't have no management skills and they can't control everybody, who actually controls the class? The rowdy kids control the class. So if you actually want to take something away from what the teacher's trying to do, but you in a class with, let's say it's an ICT class and you just happen to be in there because scheduling is packed, and you know how it is in the school with admin stuff. They put some kids certain places just because that's what they got room for. If you in a class where the kids is turning up or heavy, you not really learning anything in that instance. The teacher don't got no management skills. The kids is running amok. There's no lesson being made. Who's actually learning? You know what I mean? Then we talking about a system where you got a bunch of teachers that don't want to incorporate technology. that don't want to teach the kids about what they already use. Like I used to have projects where the kids would have to record videos, give me some social media for this historical figure. Like, yo, make it hot. Like you use this stuff all the time. Use it for something that's gonna teach me something, and then I'll see if I can rock with you on it. But we're not doing that, you know. So I feel like it's more we going back to the status quo in a lot of ways. And even parents that don't want to opt into that, a lot of parents don't know what is available to them. And for a lot of parents, let's be real, you know, school is babysit. Wealthy people look at school very differently than people that don't got no money. People that don't got no money, they need school. Wealthy people, it's just a part of what they do. You know, they work remote already. They have, okay, you get off at 2:00, bet I'm there with the whip. I'm gonna come get you. Like it's a very, so until we kind of really like look at some of these other things that affect how people approach school from every angle, we're gonna be stuck dealing with a lot of the same old games and the same old shenanigans. And it's only gonna get worse because a lot of teachers that are good are leaving because they tired of the bullshit. They tired of the bullshit. They don't want to deal with it no more. D, was it you that said you broke up 3 fights? Because I heard that part.
Yeah, that was just today.
That's and this
is left though. That's why it wasn't like this all year. I got 3 days. My last day is Wednesday. I'm done.
No, I heard that part too, and I feel you on that. But my issue is also that in a lot of these schools, right, the people that know how to get to the kids, this is the position that they give us, right? They typically give Black people the position of dean, you know what I mean? Disciplinarian. Like you gotta, like, if you look at school, it very much mimics like a plantation. Okay, when you're looking at who's getting all the money, who's making all the real decisions, and who's enforcing the rules that they want you to enforce. And for me, that's why I left the school system. That's why I stopped teaching, because master not gonna tell me how to talk. Master not gonna tell me how to do my job when I do my job better than they could ever do it. You know what I mean? And so I'm not saying that's you, D. Like, I'm not saying that that's you, but I find that in the system, you know, the system also treats us in a way that reflects the priorities of the society. Like, you here to enforce rules that even if you disagree with them, you got to enforce them. Like, why is there a uniform policy? Like, I don't care anything about if your shirt is tucked in or not. Like, I was never that teacher that was giving nobody whatever demerits, whatever credit system, whatever, if they shirt wasn't tucked in. I really don't care, because you showed up, we gonna get this learning today. But we know the system is just not ready for us to shake the table, to overhaul and overturn the entire table. We got to kind of move like, you know, like Underground Railroad style. Like, we got to really just infiltrate, tap the ones that get it, and then the ones that get it keep tapping the next one, and then over more and more time, you'll see that it's changing. So that's how I feel about it.
To some students, Zoom has been a blessing, and it's been empowering from what you're saying. Like, you know, some kids who have been in classrooms their whole life have never had the option to turn their camera off, right? Like, and so they like, even in those small decisions. Now with school opening back up, you take away them decisions. You take away the little bit of power that some of these kids have felt, and now you put them right back into the normal caste system, to where now, like, a kid who has thrived during this time is now going to again feel like he's trying to keep his head above water. And then also it's a conversation about kids who have struggled because they haven't had the building, right? And I think that, you know, principals have to have that conversation with their staff, like, just to realize, like, what are some things that we should take away from the moment from this time that worked, or that the kids felt empowering. Like, a kid in the class can't turn his camera off, but he could just ignore you, or he could just turn up, right? Which is the equivalent. Whereas with the camera option, though you may want to see him or her, that doesn't necessarily stop you from teaching. So that's kind of a blessing. And so I think some teachers are gonna miss that, because it's like, yo, the kid who now causes the ruckus has now just said, you know what, I can turn my camera off and I can opt out. Now that kid is back live and direct. He's like, yo, yeah, well, I can't turn my camera off, but I can make this class end. What teachers are gonna be prepared for that kid? Because he's coming back a hybrid version of himself. However he was handling before Corona, he's like Super Saiyan now with it. So like you got to be on you got to be on your P's and Q's, and I just don't know if teachers and educators are going to be prepared for that hybrid version of these new students, these more informed students coming back into their classrooms, and I think a lot of teachers are gonna break next year. Like
you got people talking about how they learn their history off of TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they dropping on IG straight. That's what people's talking about. The fact that they learning actual information off of TikTok when you got states saying, nah, I don't teach that. It's like you can't control a narrative to that level no more. You know what I mean? And for the teachers, look, I don't know. I don't even think they were doing a good job overall, if I had to sum it up, of like teaching what they had to teach, right? Like, so I don't know what's gonna happen now, because you gotta think about it. There's no chat function in a classroom. There's no way for a student that doesn't want to like call like that feels like shy to be like, I'm gonna put this in the chat. There is no chat in person. When you got to think about it, when people is teaching in person, you got administrators talking about, oh, I seen 3 kids had their head down. Well, maybe the kids don't feel good today. That don't mean that that they're not present. That don't mean that they're not listening. You know what I mean? So now the question I have really is, how do you actually speak to the whole child in person when on Zoom? And you know what? I'll be honest. Zoom is kind of like, it's like the wild, wild west and shit. You know what I mean? Like some kids is thriving. Some kids fell off entirely. Some kids is in the middle. They got good days. They got bad days. You know what I'm saying? But going back in person, it's like, how do you manage having been in the wild, wild west, guns and all, like where you was at in the, you know, the OK Corral and shit? How do you manage that process with bringing that back to in person, where the kids is like hemmed up, want to be with their friends, and that's what they want to focus on. They're not going to want to focus on what you got to say for 45 whole minutes, because a lot of people shorten their lessons online too, right? A lot of people wasn't doing the whole time of class periods online, and I know nobody's thinking about it. Everybody's coming at this at the last hour, as always, acting like they didn't have plenty of time to address real change. So I don't know if it's gonna happen, bro. We about to make a lot of money though, because you know that's where you get money where the problems lie. There's a lot of problems, so I'm with it.
I also think Zoom helped parent engagement for better or worse. But parents being able to, you know, there's some videos you see parents barking on teachers and whatnot, but like the mere fact that they were able to be in the classroom with their kids allowed them to feel like they had a voice, but also was seeing what was going on in real time. I think that's an element that you kind of want to bring with you. Like, I think that classes, though we're going to be back in school, I think teachers should consider like Zooming in class live all the time, or like, you know what I'm saying, like, or something to where it's just like, you know, parents can tap in, because ultimately parents don't tap in like they tapped in this past couple months. You know, I heard parents barking on teachers. I heard parents critiquing lesson plans and then giving viable options of what they could have done. Like that you know, that's far and few between when kids are in the building. So I also think that's something that the powers that be at all schools should look into in regards to, like, how do we keep those parents who have been engaged, you know, engaged still when class is not going on in their living room or going on in, you know what I'm saying, in their house.
It's gonna be hard for parents to be engaged too, because they're gonna go back to work themselves, or they're gonna be worried about what they worry about.
The whole cycle has restarted, because instead of taking the opportunity to make something new, everybody was just focused on survival. And leadership is not about survival. Leadership is about what I can envision after I've been confronted with a hurdle. You know what I mean? Like Rick Grimes, I fucking stand for Rick Grimes, yo. Like Walking Dead, people stopped watching the show because Rick Grimes wasn't on the show. But I was just like, yo, like he's a perfect case study of a leader. He's always like, yo, at the end of the day, we know somebody's gonna be coming for us. Let's just, for better or for worse, let's just go to them first, because it's gonna be a problem if they catch us here slipping. Like, we got to move. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of people in these positions of leadership and education are not actually leaders. They're there for the clout. They're there for the bread. They're not actually thinking about, okay, we going back. What element, like you said, Ian, right? Like, what element of digital or virtual can we keep so that we can have parents understand what's happening in these spaces, whereas they could just tap on their phone and look. They don't have to necessarily come to parent teacher conference night. They don't have to be in the physical building. But again, schools are stuck in the 19th century, literally. It hasn't changed for over 60 years. They don't want to change. They don't want to change, and they're almost being, the priorities are just not there. The priorities are these companies that do the testing, and people just don't know stuff like that. They don't know that the testing people, Pearson Education is running shit right now. If you could make people have a test in a pandemic and put pressure so that they feel like they got to do that shit, you the boss. You the actual boss. Because I would have been like, yo, the kids gonna cheat. There's no way I would give a test online as a teacher. Knowing what I know, the kids gonna cheat, bruh. And it's gonna be easy for them to cheat. So the fact that the control is in the hands of the people that don't actually care, I think that's really what's causing, that's what's making it take so long to see changes. And the fact that people don't listen to teachers, like teachers are at the bottom of the ladder. Like, they just basically like minions. You say something, then you the problem. You go against something, you the problem. You know what I mean? But you the one that got to do what they like. And I'm like, there'll be things that they used to tell us, and I'm like, yo, why don't you do that? Why don't you try to come and do that on top of everything else I got to do for what you gonna tell me I got to do next week? Next week you're gonna say I didn't do this. You're gonna say I didn't do that. But then you added more to what I got to do, knowing damn well you can't do none of it. So it's, I was waiting for the revolution a little bit, but people got to get paid. So I guess people went to work. Like, I don't know.
So what you, because you wasn't on last Monday, we talked about Camilla Harris saying that, her statement about that America isn't racist. How do you feel about that, specifically as an educator, a black educator, and a mother, and somebody that other young woman look up to, like, how do you feel about that? Because I had a certain viewpoint, but I'm a man, so I can only, my viewpoint is not as valid as yours. So I wanted to see what you thought.
I mean, like, again, I live in, I think it's important to name, right, that we have, so the idea of intersectionality is this very idea that we exist within multiple identities all at once, right? So all at once, I could hear this shit and I could be like, this some old bullshit. That's exactly how I felt about it. Because, but again, being educated and putting that in the forefront, I'm not surprised. You have to understand, politicians gonna politic. That's what they do. That's what they do. They come in front of you, they parade a story. It's a formula. Oh, my mother worked this kind of job. I could relate to you. Every politician, I could break down the New York City mayoral race, these commercials. Let me give it to you in 3 sentences. I'm gonna try to relate to you by telling you about my life, that it's not really like my life. I'm gonna try to make a change and make promises that I know people want to hear, that I can't do. That's 2. And number 3, I'm better than the other guy. Like, that's all they do. So as soon as they check those boxes, they don't care. They don't really care what necessarily like happens after that. Like, so she's gonna say that because she's a politician, right? And instead of being like honest or being candid with the people that really put her in that position, she's playing to the majority. And the majority of Americans they want to ignore the fact that America is racist. They want to ignore the fact that Black people die, and nobody puts out statements when Black people die. When Jewish people die, there's all these statements from all these different people in all these different places about why it's wrong. We're not going to stand for it. But when people that look like me and my son and my partner and my family members is on the street for no reason, nobody don't got nothing to say. And that's another thing that I'm always peeping. And that goes back to what I said about this BIPOC term. everybody want to ride the wave off of the black, but don't nobody want the problems that we had. Everybody shies away when shit is going down for us, but when we fix it, everybody ready to swoop in like Superman and shit, coming to save the day. Like, nah, we actually saved the day because we fought for all of this shit, and y'all are benefiting because we did that. So, you know, she's gonna say what she's gonna say. I don't even have time for the bullshit because it's bullshit. It's clearly not the truth. But America still look at what they doing. They passing laws to keep it quiet in a state that was founded off of the very backbone of slavery. That's why Texas was founded. They founded Texas because the people that was moving over there to get the land that the Mexicans was offering, they wanted to keep their slaves. Plain, point blank, period. You can look this shit up. They fought over the fact that they wanted to keep their slaves. And Mexico only had 3 rules if you was moving to Texas back in the 1820s, bro. 3 rules. You got to be Christian. You can't have no slaves. And you got to develop the land. I think that was the 3rd one. But the people coming over from you know, the east side of the country at the time, they really wanted to hold on to their slaves, bro. And so they created a whole problem, made up a whole lie to trigger the Mexican-American War. Yo, trust. It's a legacy of lying, plundering, stealing, continuing to lie, continuing to plunder, continuing to steal, and act like you great. So this is why I always separate who I listen to, who's actually valid. These people's not valid to me. And Kamala, trust and believe, she's in her position because of her ethnicity. They needed to make some headways with the Asian countries that's coming up on this American ass. And people don't understand that. It's a different world when you take a step back and you zero out and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not studying that. And I could say, I mean, I voted Democrat, obviously, like, right. Nobody wants Cheeto back. Like, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like I did it because I felt like, oh my God, things are going to change. Ain't no fucking change, bro. I'm the change. I make shit happen. I do shit for kids. You do shit for kids. We do shit for kids. I rest on what I know, and that's my name and my people's, and that's how we rock.
So since we're talking about, you know, what should happen next year, and, you know, that the DOE should be thinking about, you know, creative ways to bring kids back. I read an article that I sent to you and James too, which leads me to believe that the DOE is not foreign to doing things that are outside of the norm or even uncomfortable, or going to be uncomfortable to certain people. And so the DOE treats NYC's youngest students to a virtual drag queen story. And basically it's a drag queen that reads a book about, you know, what it is to be a drag queen, what it is to be accepted, and all of these things. And I think that there are great there are great points in regards to individuality, being comfortable in your own skin. But it's odd to me how we can ban talking about having teachers don't got to talk about race or talk about history, but we can find space to say, you know what, listen, let's talk about something that has nothing, like that's not in any history books. We can have a drag queen come in and read these books. And yeah, there've been like people who disagreed with it or were uncomfortable, but the DOE has greenlit this. And so, you know, though they are not necessarily swayable in regards to certain things, they are very, when it suits them, they are very creative and very like, let's not be stuck to these borders. It's about breaking down these barriers. But then on one end, we read that the bill just got passed.
You gotta ask the right questions, right? Because the question we should be asking is, when does the DOE think, and when does the DOE actually sway? When and for who? Because you got to know all of this stuff. Even I love the drag queen thing. I love it, but then at the same time, like, I'll be honest, as a mom, it's like, all right, I have to teach myself how to navigate this conversation with my son, and for him to be tolerant, and for him to understand, like, a lot quicker than I wanted to. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm just gonna be honest about that. But you got to ask, when do they do this? When do they do these things, and who's behind the decision making that allows it to happen? It's like the pronouns. Pronouns started to be this thing now. Like you got to have pronouns in your signature. You got to have pronouns when you log in. You got to have pronouns. Does that mean that people have more rights because we put in our pronouns? Like who are we trying to appease with these things? And you'll see that certain people, again, have more privilege and have more power than others. And this is why I'm always kind of like trying to, peer behind the curtain to be like, okay, you're right, Ian. Like, they're innovative when they want to be, but when do they decide to be innovative, and for who? Right? Because you got to understand, New York is a state that has a lot of same-sex marriage is legal in New York. Mm-hmm. Pride is coming up in June. And so when we look at the makeup of who's in power, more people that are of same-sex, companions and marriages, they are more affluent. They have more clout. They have more say so when we're talking about things that take place. You know what I mean? But in what ways does it take place? And how does it manifest, and how does it come out? And that's what I'm always trying to look at, because but I'm home and I see Read NYC, and I think Read NYC is amazing. They have stories, and they always have Black people, Latinos, Latinas reading stories to kids around 11 o'clock in the morning. If you're on channel 13, around that time is Read NYC. And so they do make that effort. So I think for me, knowing that and having that context, seeing that they added the drag queen virtual reading, it was it was a step that I was like, okay, I know that they do the Read NYC anyway. So I'm not going to be as like, oh my God. But at the same time, when are we teaching about Juneteenth? And now it's a big thing to have Juneteenth as a holiday, and people are doing that. But it took a man dying, being lynched on the news, which happens before George Floyd. It's happened after George Floyd. It's still happening. We're still seeing people being murdered. Like it's like, I don't know. Like I don't think the drag queen thing is performative, but I do think that we still are fighting just to be seen in a way that other people get seen before we get seen as Black people when we built the damn place. So I don't know.
You basically hit you put the butter on what I was trying to say. Just very PhD eloquent, like.
But Darnell, YB, what y'all think? What y'all think about the drag queen story time? And I'm curious to hear what guys have to say about this, actually. And I don't know if you guys are parents or not, but you guys are educators, so you are parents, pseudo parents for sure. In any case, so what do y'all think about that?
If I could, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you good? I can hear you.
If I could be honest, if I'm being honest, like so my school is like it used to be in Greenwich Village, Christopher Street. If you're familiar with that, that's like where a lot of gay people hang out, and that's where like a lot of gay history is on that street. And so they moved downtown, and they took like that history with them. And so when I first came around, I wasn't used to, there was a lot of trans children in my school that that I wasn't used to. Like I know if I was coming up, it would have been bad for that kid or that student just because we didn't understand it. But when I came around after a while, like they have gender neutral bathrooms and stuff like that. My school was like the first school to kind of do that. And so I kind of got used to it. I got educated on it. As far as drag reading stories, I'm not really I don't know how I feel about that. I don't got kids, but I got
ages 3 to 7. I'm gonna give you the ages. I'm gonna download you real quick.
3 to 7. I mean, that's a little confusing, I think. If I could be honest, I don't know how to break that down to a kid where they could understand. You know what I mean? I saw a teacher speak about the pronouns things, and he was upset because he was like, we making people switch their pronouns where they can't even get the regular pronouns right. Oh, no, I shouldn't say regular, but they can't even spell, read, or write. And now I got to teach them about this whole other thing, and it's hard for him as an educator to kind of teach these kids about that. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I think it's just a little bit confusing as an educator, and maybe for the kid too.
Do you think it's confusing, or as confusing as the conversation about equity and race is for teachers, or is it like?
Yeah. I mean, for some teachers, I think it is confused, just as confusing. I think it is. Like I'll sit in some of these meetings, and I'm just like shaking my head the whole time because I'm like, like we really. I don't know. It's just a lot. Like it's a lot.
It
for
just
them to
shouldn't be
handle.
that hard, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard, but it's hard for them. It's hard for them because they just don't understand it. So I think it's probably easier to teach, the pronouns and teaching kids that there are trans people out there. I think it's easier for them versus learn about racial equity and stuff like that. Because they just don't come from that world, you know what I'm saying? They most likely come from the world of the other world.
I agree with you though. I don't really see it too much in my school. I'm in the middle school though. I don't know. I don't see like the pronouns. We didn't go over that and then that. So maybe because we're virtue. So I don't know. I think 3 to 7 is too young too. I agree with that.
So 3rd to 7th grade.
Ages 3 to 7. You said right? Yeah, I think that's too young.
So it's too young. It's too young to learn about cross dressing, but is it too young to learn about equity and race and like? Do you think that's too early to start teaching that? To teach that, D?
That's a good question though. I mean, for me, I think it is. I don't know. Equity. I think it is necessary for us to learn about equity.
Yeah,
who we are, because you take more pride in education. You kind of know what you want to do once you taught at a young age. Like the Jewish people teach their kids at a young age. They have their own schools and things like that. We don't have that. I got kids in my school. Remember the other kid I told you about before? The kid that he's in trouble for stealing a car and stuff like that. He told me he bought some boots for trapping. Like if you relate like business to him, he's more like engaged. But when you teach him regular curriculum, I'm trying to get as like if he learns about himself and what he can do and his history, I think he'll want to come to school and want to learn and want to do things instead of being in the streets and doing what he's doing right now. So I think for that question, I don't think it's too young for our people. I think it's necessary though. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. For young Black minorities, you need to learn about your culture and how you've been, the history of how you've been in this country and in the world. That goes for everybody, but I think it's very important actually for young Black kids to learn about racial equity and stuff like that.
I think it's important for all the kids to learn about equity because I'm tired of damn hearing the story about all these white people and it took them about never to talk about Mansa Musa. Like Mansa Musa was the richest man in the entire world. Okay, they used to have to bow when they went to African kingdoms to steal our stuff. You know what I mean? And I think it's very telling when the only things that Black kids know about history is the narrative of slavery, because again, it's an agenda to teach our children submission. It's an agenda to hide from them the fact that they are powerful. When you look at sports, right? And you look at how when a Black person enters a sport, they dominate that shit. It don't matter what the sport is. Put a Black person in it, they about to be an Olympian. Straight up. No chase, no cap. Let's go. We could do that. We could do tennis. Arthur Ashe was good. Before Serena, there was Arthur Ashe was good. You know what I mean? Like it's some real things behind like understanding that every other culture, they see themselves represented in history. If they're white leaning, right? Not everybody, I should say, but some of them. in a very positive light. You know, like even if you're Asian, excuse me, a lot of people don't know that in global history, when you study the first ancient civilizations, the Yellow River Valley, that was in China. So even if I was a young kid thinking about what I'm being taught, I'm like, wait a minute. So the Chinese, the Egyptians, you know, like you always keep hearing about all these other people that made or had, you know, advanced cultures and things like that. And then the other, you know, and when it comes to you, or you hear about that you was enslaved, and then you was fighting for rights, and then you still fighting for rights. That's really what they teach about Black people in a nutshell. They don't teach all the other shit. They don't teach the resistance. They don't teach the fact that if it wasn't for Black people, there would be no rice, because Africans actually brought the cultivation of rice to North Carolina. They never talk about the fact that when the English first tried to go to North Carolina, they were eating each other and they died because they couldn't survive. Okay. They don't teach that part. So, you know, I think in terms of, you know, the drag queen stuff in comparison with like equity and things like that, you know, I think that there's room for both. I think the priority, though, if I had to say, I think the priority is the race and equity for everyone, but especially white children in actuality. Not, I think Black kids, of course, but I think this idea of privilege, it's instilled in young white children, because think about it. When you go to school, everyone in the book that saved the day looks like you. Everyone that made advances looks like you. Everyone that is responsible for progress looks like you. And so when you get older, it's hard to actually hear, y'all didn't really do all of that though. Like, it's really hard to believe that, right? If in your schooling, all you were taught is that you're so great, and that everyone great looks like you, and that everyone great comes of people that look like you, right? And so this is why, you know, you had Garvey, you know, talking about being a pan-Africanist and wanting to separate, right? And this is where these revolutionaries got their ideas from, because they saw the detriment of that behavior, right? If you ask a lot of old school elders, like African American elders, they will tell you the best thing for Black people was to be segregated, because they had to actually support each other. Like, they couldn't go nowhere else. So then everybody got to eat and everybody had more money, because you had to just buy Black. You had no option. Because now with the option, people want to run and chase behind the oppressor, because they make it look so good. They make it look so appealing to do and to have the values that they have and to live how they live. And so I don't know if I need my son to know that, you know, he'll know that people have different lifestyle choices and people feel that they were born a certain way and that's their choice, right? But I don't know if that's the priority over, nah, you a prince and you're going to inherit a kingdom, because I'm building that for you right now. And our ancestors built us a kingdom because our ancestors took off the shackles from the French, because you Haitian. What's up? Like, you know, so there's room for both is what I want to say. But I think there's a priority that has to happen, because we're still talking the same conversation. People still acting like they don't know what they need to know. And it's 2021 and that conversation is tired as fuck. Like, I mean, to still be hearing, oh, why y'all just can't, and then when it's on the news, when it's public information, that's the part that the willful ignorance is the part that we got to try to stomp out. That's the most dangerous thing.
That's a fact. It's about knowledge of self. YB, where did you go? I feel like I watched you walk all the way uptown. Where did you go? Where did you start? Where did you end?
He's in the back cave now.
I was in, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but I was on Wall Street and now I'm in the projects.
Yo, please download me on the convo. I got a boogie. I got a meeting, but it's always a pleasure. I'm gonna holler at y'all soon.
All right, later, Doc.
Ciao. Yeah, I guess we should wrap it up. Let's get a quick.
That was a good one. That was a good one, though, man.
Yeah, really. I was just a good listener. You heard?
Let's get a quick breakfast. Get a quick breakfast check. What we had?
I had pralines, not pralines. I had some cookies for breakfast, basically.
No, but what are pralines though, man?
Pralines is like some ice cream stuff. But
I got you.
But I had some cookies from Starbucks that's shaped like shells and they got chocolate dip.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, those joints.
Damn, what do they call it? Yeah, you're right. It's similar to praline.
It's not praline, but it's praise. It's
Madeline.
Yeah, Madeline. Yeah, Madeline's. Madeline.
Yeah.
I have some chocolate dip Madelines. Those are cookies for anybody try to cancel me. You know what I'm saying? Those are cookies. You know what I'm saying?
You're canceled.
Heard.
Yeah.
I had a gluten-free triple berry muffin and
triple berry, huh? That's big on the bean too.
Yeah, I was at Bakehouse, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Triple berry.
Yeah.
I had the kids' breakfast today. I had the pancakes in the bag, warmed up.
Yeah, the pancakes in the bag.
Yeah, pancakes in the bag came warmed up in the bag. With the
that sound fire though.
On the side, yep.
That sound fire.
That sound like that Department of Correction sangria in the bag they be making behind the wall. You heard? That's good too. If you gotta eat it.
But you in Georgia, the kitchen staff probably don't play out there, huh?
They bring it since we don't move, man, because of the pandemic. They bring the kids. They bring them lunch and breakfast. Like so, in the morning they bring them in the bag, and then they bring the lunch in the bag. Right. So they sit in the class all day. They don't move out of the class the whole day, man. Unless you have a special, you have like a gym. A lot of kids don't have gym, so maybe 1 or 2 in the class have gym. But I'm gonna try to get y'all down here though, man. Cause it's a need though, man. These kids really need, bro. Like it's gonna be crazy next year because it's gonna be full capacity next year though. So
you listen. You talking to the right ones. You heard? Chitty bang bang. You heard?
But I kind of want you guys to work with this one kid, and I'll pay too, man. Because if this kid doesn't get somebody,
whoa. You can't pay us.
No, I'm saying I gotta find a way to pay because if this kid doesn't get help, bro, he's 2 things, bro. Like because he's super smart, but he's so in tune in the street. He's so young though, man. But like it's crazy though, man. The stuff he's into though, man. But like if he can do math like that, he's super smart, bro. But like he just needs some kind of guidance before it's too late. He's only in 6th grade. He's a true 6th grader. He's never been left back, and he's so far ahead of his time, like as far as like in the streets and knowing certain things and doing certain things. So, I mean, I don't know so much what he's doing, but I can only like imagine what's going on. You know what I mean? So I need some ideas of like what can he do? Like what programs? Like is it music? Is it computers? Is it something? Is it sports? What can he do to kind of occupy that time so he's not hanging out who he's hanging out with or getting in trouble?
Yeah, gotta get him engaged.
Yeah, and you could do. I mean, you can exhaust all your resources on him, and we can figure out some things. But then ultimately, you gotta know that sometimes it don't matter what we do.
You know,
it don't matter. I'm not, but you realize that after you've exhausted all options, but sometimes kids is on a path to, you know, I got a young man that I've been focusing on trying to keep him out of getting caught up and had millions of conversations with him and you know, thousands of hours of like, you know, positive talking, and he still decided to, you know, put himself in a situation where now he about to probably face some real time. Right, so like sometimes you know it's those things help, but when they don't, and this is important for educators, is when they don't, you have to realize that, and then you have to apply that energy to another kid.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm not saying that's this situation.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But I think a lot of times, like master educators realize that okay, I only have so much bandwidth, and this kid right here just not getting it, which means that there's a kid that I'm not giving time to that might be on the fence, that's not gonna listen, and so I have to now use my energy and apply that energy to this kid. Not saying that we give up on this kid, the other kid, but we know that the reality is that I've given this guy 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours worth of positive talk, and not just talk, but options. And he's still in the streets. Maybe I have to recalibrate my timetables in regard to how I'm trying to empower not only this kid, but the laundry list of kids that are tapped in with you just because you are who you are, you know?
Right. Nah, you're right, 100%, man. But I'll be up there, man. I'll be up there on the 3rd. I'll be up there for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, we locked in. BITB 10, we locked in. Breakfast check, we locked in. Today was a good one.
That was a good one.
I appreciate you for tapping in for D, and we definitely gonna be in Atlanta. Your principal don't know yet, but she gonna know soon. You heard?
For sure, man. All right, man.
Words to my man Little John. Yeah.
And on that note, we out of here.
Yeah.
All right, one fellas.
One love.